Oh,
Wow. Yeah, that turn at the end
yeah. Just
made the game.
just give me all your thoughts, Dante. Like from start to finish of the game.
From start to finish, like I was like, this is a pretty cute little fun co-op game. I like the mechanics. The side-by-side split screen on. Like I thought all the setup stuff was like super cutesy. And then that twist,
Mm-hmm.
all the game mechanics were perfectly aligned specifically for that twist.
Yep.
To teach you to screen peek the whole game. It's teaching you, you're going to cheat because that's the ultimate betrayal, right? When you're sitting in co-op couching with somebody and you're playing PvP, the ultimate betrayal is to screen peek your buddy.
Yep.
Like that's the ultimate betrayal, and that's this whole game is setting up for that betrayal, and it's teaching you to do that.
Oh my
The
gosh.
game mechanics, like the story nothing special. Like it was really actiony flick from start to finish, and I'm okay with that, right? Because the game doesn't have to be like this huge innovative story thing. It can just show off, we had this idea for a mechanic and we want, because there was no tutorial. This
Right.
whole game
Right.
had zero tutorial, and I love that. Because the game, you just learn to play the game by playing the game. And that's the best kind of learning mechanic ever. Like 600%, that's the way to do it. Don't give me like a 2-hour tutorial to teach me to play your game. Just let me play your game and I'll learn how to play it by playing it.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I thought the game started off pretty simplistic, and that was okay for me. I was thinking that it was going to be primarily maybe like a Tales-like game, where
It did a lot of that.
you're not there for the gameplay per se. You're there for the story.
Decisions.
Right. And I think that as it went on, it got better.
I agree.
The mini games are like, it's kind of sad to say, but they were a huge draw for this game.
Oh, I totally agree. Like I love getting from location to location to play like some mini games that I enjoyed. Like,
Right.
Every game except the arcade, I thoroughly enjoyed, and being able to PvP in baseball.
Yep.
Oh man,
And every mini game was different.
yeah,
They only repeated one mini game, and that was darts. But they gave us the arcade as well during that section. So we got a new mini game every single time. And I just to talk about the twist, I mentioned it before, but the way the game sets that up, it's
for sure.
you start off not knowing each other, then you start working together, then they give you these little mini games to kind of butt heads a little bit, have a little bit of fun, and then the twist happens and they're like, surprise, you're actually up against one another.
You've actually been competing against one another this entire time.
And you need to use the skills that you learned
man.
to beat your opponent. Any means necessary. And
I totally agree.
I 100% say that I'm one of those people that likes to call out surprises, twists, and things like that. I never saw this coming.
I did not. No way. Like when I'm watching like any kind of film or art, or when I'm reading a book or something, like I'll even do like a little notepad thing with me of what I think about characters and where I think the plot's going to go. That way I can kind of see and like build off that on like how creative they were and stuff. But I did not. Because I kept thinking, how are they going to end this? How are they going to end this? Like, we talked about that a lot.
Yep.
And we were nowhere even close.
Oh.
The twist in this game, you know what it reminds me of? What other game that felt really generic when I played it until the twist happened? Have you played Spec Ops: The Line?
I've only played a little bit. We talked about this in Discord a couple weeks back, where I reached a point where it appeared to me that it had infinite spawns, and I just couldn't get past it, so I stopped playing it.
Yeah. There are like Spec Ops: The Line is a really generic third-person shooter, in my opinion. Like, there's nothing incredibly interesting about the gameplay, and this actually had like a compelling gameplay mechanics that I thought totally carried the game, because the co-op stuff, like forcing you to work together and finding out, okay, what's the next twist to us working together. Like, I loved the toilet section of us breaking out of our cells. I thought that was fantastic.
That was good.
But Spec Ops has a few things here and there about that, but it's nothing like really in your face until like the very, very end. And then you're like, that made the game. Whoa. And this felt a lot like that. Like it had that click at the twist where I was like, this was a good game. At that point, that's when I knew this was an enjoyable experience.
And I 100% agree with you there. And then I also want to talk about, which something that you actually mentioned already was how they did the split screen. Yep. I have never seen a game use split screen in such a creative way. I mean, we even got, they changed the angles, they changed the sides. Sometimes they gave us 3 screens where they showed us that assassin guy,
the killer that was coming after us.
Like,
the camera angles I felt was a huge, like, just this game shows if you're a game developer, it's not just about making the camera convenient for the player, but also a game mechanic by itself. Like one thing that a player takes advantage of or like takes for granted, you can turn into a compelling game mechanic. And the camera in this game, like the camera work, like even the side scroller section. So instead of me just like R1ing like some cops down, it turned into like a side scroller beat 'em up for a little bit. And I love the camera work of this game. Like that just by itself as a game mechanic was enjoyable and unexpected.
And to add on that, those camera angles never overstayed their welcome.
They were always back to normal.
Right. We got the side scroller, which was fantastic. And, that didn't last too long. It didn't feel like, man, this is becoming a drag. We're just getting more and more enemies. And then we also...
The pacing.
And then we also got the overhead camera where we were both on the map and we were chasing after that one guy.
The foreman.
Yeah.
Ray.
And that one was, just short and sweet. But it happened so abruptly. It was like a really big change of pace. And I wasn't expecting that kind of camera work in this game.
Yeah, me neither. I felt like that is one thing that the game did really well is it gave you like some comfort zone, like a level, like an area of comfort zone, but then kept pushing you in one direction out of that, but never out of the chair. Like it would push you to the edge here and then maybe like a different edge of the chair and then like a different edge of the chair, but never out of the chair. So you never felt like you had no idea. It was just like, oh, this is new. Quick, let me adjust.
Right.
Oh, this is new. Let me figure this out real quick. But the base mechanics of, okay, this button does this button does that was still the same. So it's not like it was jumping you around or jumbling anything. It was jarring without confusion. And that's like really hard. Really, really hard. Especially as somebody who does like storytelling and stuff and like writing for people, it's really hard to not be confusing with moving stuff suddenly. Like when you're reading a story, right, and it jumps from like one location to another all of a sudden, you're like, oh gosh, where am I now? Like, what's going on? And then it kind of doesn't make sense sometimes. I feel like this game did that really well with the camera work. Like it was always something welcome and never like was the pacing. Yeah, that's another thing. The pacing was always really good. It was always next. I never felt like we drug anywhere.
Oh yeah, and any time where the pacing might have had a negative impact, it was only because we just didn't want to progress the story at that time.
Yeah, it was us taking the time to, let's look around and talk to people. Because we could have went the whole game without talking to people.
Exactly.
Like the talking to people was completely optional. Like none of those people, like most of the time, had anything impactful as far as like stuff to do. It was, hey, this is a thing that we added to just, I felt like it just fleshed our characters out more. Because every time, like I wanted to talk to people as Brooklyn Rage because I wanted to see what dumb thing would come out of his mouth next. Because it was like a train wreck.
and also to add on that as well, those people weren't necessary to talk to, but they added hidden gems for sure. Those levels. Like that lady with the wife where she had the bat and she was looking for her husband.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Nobody cheats on Margaret.
Right. And And those little hidden gems just made it so much better.
You know what else was funny about that? How our characters approached everything very differently. Like, it really felt like it was us playing a character, not the character is being played by a person. But it's like we played that character, the actual character. Their characteristics and their traits and stuff are already defined. It's not like you are going to play this character like an evil Vincent, right?
Right.
Because I didn't start out the game thinking to be an evil jerk, but like my guy's personality and like his one-liners and the way he approached everything made me want to be an evil jerk the entire game, just to be a jerk.
I 100% agree with that as well. I really liked that our characters, when they interacted with the world, they had different outlooks from one another. It wasn't exactly complete opposites either. You know, like they saw eye to eye.
We found that common ground a lot of the time.
Right, they saw eye to eye on several times. But you know, when you went to go talk to just one of those side characters, you got different dialogue. You saw how they interacted with the characters and how they would approach a dilemma or a situation that particular side character would be in. And I love that little bit of development. It was,
well, they felt like actual characters instead of just a vehicle to move the story in, right? Instead of just you're feeling this viewpoint instead of like just a camera angle. The character felt like it had traits and personality, and that was honestly really enjoyable. I wouldn't say like this was like mind-blowing writing or anything, but I felt like it was a genuinely enjoyable experience. Just from like, I actually felt like these were two people that we got to tag along with for just like about 6 hours.
I think one of the interesting things about gaming is you can play something and you can have a mediocre feature prominent throughout the game, and the game can still be carried by amazing implementation and creative work elsewhere. And I think this game kind of follows a similar path there. The gameplay is not revolutionary, the story is not revolutionary, but the implementation, the creative use of how they use the story, how they use the mechanics, really excel this game far beyond
more than what I was expecting, that's for sure.
Like beyond expectations, but also beyond other games that's already in this genre that have had years to iterate on their own process.
It fills a really niche role too when it comes to that, because it's kind of a third party, or like a kind of a third person shooter. It's definitely like an action adventure movie style game, right? Because there's like tons of explosions and car chases and like quick one-liners and quips and revenge is the main plot, and like it's super cliche, but it takes like, I feel like it's actually like a parody on that more than anything else. Like well, maybe parody's not a good word, but like an elevation of that idea, because it uses that original vehicle within those same confines. It uses the same exact kind of cliche, straightforward, here is an action plot, and by the way, we're going to show you that this is still something that you can be surprised by. Something that I've also felt like that was actually really well done, by the way, with the action plot, like the way they picked that. It was so cliche and typical that the twist at the end shines that much more. The juxtaposition between, hey, car chases, explosions, ridiculous action stuff. Let's go knock over a gas station and get money for illegal guns. Yeah, shady contacts. Sassy black chick with a fro with guns coming out of her trunk, and like unlimited ammo and all this other stuff. Just shoot everything, because like it was super actiony. And then the twist at the end is just set up so well, because you're like, this has been so typical so usual that the spin at the end is just highlighted that much more.
Everything in the game builds up to the twist, but you never...
Both the plot and the mechanics.
But you never see it coming. It's completely invisible until it happens.
I really feel like this is something that reminds me of Dark Souls 1 level design. And that is when you look in Dark Souls 1, like if you look over the edge, like you're in a castle and you look over the edge and you see this forest and stuff, you'll actually end up in that forest. Or if you see a big castle in the distance, you know, eventually you'll end up there. All the backdrop you see in Dark Souls 1, you end up there, but you don't realize you're going to end up there until you're there.
Right.
And then it clicks after you get there. You're like, oh my God, this is the place that I saw like two hours ago. Like I was looking at this place 2 hours ago and I'm here now. And I feel like that kind of reflection, that sudden click once you're already there, is a really worthwhile experience that is like really hard to create. Like as somebody who's trying to create a thing for someone to enjoy and like an experience for somebody to have, it's super hard to give them a genuine moment of aha, wow. But that twist really did that very well.
100% agree with that.
To continue.
This game also, I started pointing these things out as I saw them, but this game does take a lot of inspiration, some intentional, maybe some unintentional, from other games and just other media genres. I really did get an Uncharted vibe in this game.
Super Uncharted, especially the motorcycles to escape, like the car chase with all the explosions. The
gunplay reminded me of Uncharted as well.
The gunplay was really Uncharted-ish because of the cover system, which was really loose. That was okay. And like the guy in his house with that huge long hallway leading up to actually get to fight him was just incredibly Scarface. Like that was, this is the super evil guy that has like, and that was a good twist because it said like Harvey almost had no actual impact on the game. Like Harvey was just this empty suit that we emptied all of this focus on. And he was just a cardboard cutout that was literally knocked over.
Oh man, that actually sets you up in this game. Because when you get to that point, the
whole thing is Harvey, and then you kill Harvey, and you're like,
"That's it?
That's it?" Like it actually like leaves you dangling there, like on the way back, and then kicks you right in the groin. It's perfect.
Absolutely,
and it keeps building on that groin kick. Like every I loved that it's sectioned in different combat arenas, because I feel like one character, like the earlier arenas, I actually feel like favor Leo because of where I spawned versus you. Like I had an easier time seeing you than you had seeing me because of the way the cover was laid out and the coloring. That's something I noticed really quick, was the coloring actually highlighted where you were for me, and all my stuff was like the same color. So it was harder for you to screen peek me because all my stuff was the same color for like the first two zones. And then we actually get into where we could engage in melee.
Exactly. I had a really hard time seeing you in the first couple of zones. Especially the first one.
I got a ton of good shots in there because of the coloring more than anything else. And I feel like that's a really purposeful, well done mechanic. And if it's not, well, then you know what? Kudos to whoever picked those color schemes, because that was a well done thing to give one player a purposeful advantage to continue to put those thumb screws on the groin kick of your dude betrayed you, your best friend. That you just made. That was good.
So
like that twist.
We've given this game a ton of praise. It's definitely an incredible game, at least from the games that I have played in my lifetime. This is not a top 10 game for me, but if I had to, list out some of the most creative and innovative games.
I think it's a memorable game. I don't think it's a top 10 game, because top 10 games for me has to be a game that I can pick back up again and play through again. Like, for example, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is in one of my top games of all time, because I could play through that game like 20 more times and still not get sick of it. But ultimately, I think that once you have figured this game out, like as far as the mechanics go, and the gunplay isn't particularly, like, none of the actual mechanics are very innovative, and I think that that's a good thing for this game because it builds to the twist. But that being said, like, after you play through this game like 2 times, 3 times max, you probably won't pick it up again. But that being said, it's like a $30 game, right?
Yeah.
I totally think that if we were to look at this game less of a let me make this a top 10 game and more of a let me like equate it to, oh my goodness, I'm actually going to say it, let me equate it to more of the art side of video games. Gosh, I hate saying that because that's one of the things that drive me nuts when people are like, video games are art. Well, sometimes they are, and in this case, I think it is. Look at it from a movie point of view, right? You could go to the movies for a weekend and like 6 hours worth of gameplay here. I totally think that the money works out for what you actually get if you look at it from more of like a film and an experience to have with a good buddy. I think that is totally, absolutely where it belongs, and less of a top 10 or like, I think it's unfair to rate it in that direction and then rate it more of an experience in film and art. Totally think that it falls into that category, and it's fantastic.
Right.
Like, I'd say 8 out of 10, no problem.
I didn't want to give the impression that it was in my top 10 or I think it should be rated top 10. Where I was going with it is the amount of innovation and creativity that's put into this game.
Agree.
Is extremely high level for me. And if someone came up to me and said, you know, could you tell me some of the most creative games you've ever played? This would probably be on the list, hands down.
Yeah, I think like Portal could play into that just because of how insanely creative it is for a puzzle game. And I think Portal will always be up there. I think this, if somebody was like, I need a game, like a co-op game to play with a buddy, like I think this is an amazing co-op game to play with somebody. Like, holy smokes, this is definitely an experience to, like, this makes co-op games a lot more interesting rather than you feeling like it's something that you can like exploit.
And let's briefly talk about some of the superficial things about this game, like the price and the game's length. Did you feel that the game was paced out perfectly, that the 5.5 hours or so of the story that we played, did you feel that you needed more, or do you feel that it could have been shorter, or was the length good for you?
I actually think the length was spot on. Like, totally, I think this length is spot on. I love co-op games that don't take more than 2 days realistically to play. Anything that's within 6 hours, I think, is an ideal co-op game, because it's either like 2 3-hour sessions or like 2 3.5 hour sessions, or 1 afternoon to evening, because, you know, we had lunch, we played through the game, and now we're ready to have dinner.
Right.
Like, I feel like 5 to 6 hours is the perfect amount for a co-op game that you want to sit down and play with somebody, compared to like other things. Like, this is something you can actually block out. Okay, well, we're going to play this game this weekend, done. And I think that that's great, because if you have something that, like, if this game was longer, right? Let's imagine this is a 10-hour game. We could have got halfway through this thing and then not picked it up again. And that would have been a shame, especially because they're so focused on building to the twist. I think that it could not be any longer. I think they stretched it to the perfect amount, because if it was any shorter, you would feel kind of gypped on the price, because I think the price is exactly a good spot for a co-op game. Like, about $5 an hour that you get to squeeze out of it, I think is totally reasonable.
I want to agree with you there, and I actually I like the point you make where you can beat it in one sitting after lunch and then go directly to dinner, because this is kind of like one of those really good after school games where it's a Friday afternoon, you just got off from school, you go home with, you know, however many buddies, and you're like, let's play A Way Out, you know, let's just do that, and then after you're done, have some dinner, do whatever.
It's also a game that you could pick up like later in the night, like order a pizza and like play through it, because it's nothing that's super demanding. Like at no point was I like super, but I never was unengaged. Like I was never to the point where I was like, okay, I can just drop my controller right now and sit here for a minute. But it wouldn't be, oh my God, I need to always be so tense on my controller all the time, because it had really good pacing to where it was like hyper points, mid points, and then midpoint for a while, and then some hyper points, but it never peaked below like a midpoint of activity. So you could totally like cram some pizza in while like going through like the back-to-back stuff and stuff like that. That'd be all right. I think it fits that, like the idea of a couch co-op, let's hang out and play through this game. If that's what they were shooting for, if that's like, this fills that gap perfect.
And just a couple more points that I want to talk about. I really do like the price of this game. Not because it's $30, but it's $30 that you can actually split if you wanted to. And
yeah, you could totally split it 15-15.
And $15 makes this game incredible.
Super cheap.
Like it's so high tier if you think of it, $15.
Yeah, if you want, definitely, I'd totally look at it that way, because you could split it totally down the middle. But unfortunately, Axel was playing it like with a cheapo like me, so only he paid for it.
Well, I said I wanted to buy the game regardless. I don't care. I think this is a worthy investment for me. But
oh, totally. Not only that, but you could play it again with somebody else and like do the opposite side of it, or play it with the same person, do the opposite side of it, and I totally think it would still be a fun. You wouldn't get like 5 or 6 hours out of it. You'd get like less, because we did have a lot of like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's this? Time that we spent a lot. But I feel like you would still have, like, I feel like we would still have that, ooh, what's this feeling, doing the other side of it, like figuring out, like, for just a small example, how that gas robbery goes down. How do we rob that gas station, Vincent style? I totally think that would be reasonable.
Yeah.
Or what happens if you walk through the jungle? Like, is there actually a difference on that? Like, what happens with the parachute thing? Does that just not happen? Do we just show up somewhere in the jungle and like have to walk for a while?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The co-op elements really bring this game together.
I like the decision that both players have to agree on the decision. That's something that I liked as well. And both people need to convince each other, like, this is what we're going to do. Like an actual two characters talking to each other, not just, okay, well, I vote this and then it flips a coin. That's something I actually don't like about Divinity. Divinity has this thing where it's just a mechanic. Like your votes don't actually matter. It's just like that charisma mechanic, and you can like do the charisma battle, and it's like rock, paper, scissors a bunch of times. I don't like that as a choice mechanic. I feel like that's a cop out. But this game actually said, like, you guys must agree or you don't go past this point. Just like it would be if those two characters were interacting. They have to agree or you just don't progress.
Exactly. Like, and there are moments where that can hinder the gameplay, but I feel like in those moments, you really just need to remove yourself from like it being a game, and instead, you know, just put yourself into the shoes of the characters. Like, okay, let's make our points and then decide. And if we don't agree, let's just choose one option, move on, and then maybe some other time we'll try out the next option, see how that goes.
Yeah, I totally think that that is a high tier mechanic that I think is more underrated than because a lot of places don't, like a lot of games, I've never actually seen another game do a debate system where you have to actually convince the other person of because you naturally want to go along with like your character. Like it made me want to do Leo's choice a lot of the time because I felt like, that was the right thing to do. And I had to convince like you to go along with a thing. And that I actually enjoyed. Like I felt like that added a game mechanic that may not necessarily be intended or built into the game itself, but I felt like that hopefully was intended because it's a nice touch.
Absolutely. There was one other point that I wanted to touch on, but it's escaping my mind. So how about you maybe tell me some things that you might not have liked, or maybe you thought that could have been improved on. Maybe if the developers were watching this this like VOD or the stream or whatever, what would you think would be some moments where they could have improved on, or what did you feel maybe detracted from the game for you?
The gunplay was frustrating. Like just straight up, the gunplay was just frustrating. Like even offering the shotgun at that level of the game was like super frustrating. Like I felt like at that point there was not much for me to do, but at the same point, gunplay mattered so little in this game because we could just bull rush a lot of stuff that I was kind of okay with it. But gunplay felt like really lazy. On one side, I was okay with that because I didn't want it to turn into like, I see why they did that, because the last twist, you don't want the game to be like Call of Duty style, let me jump in and out of sights and aim down the sight and like make it this thing. You want to keep it like go, and it felt like that was the advantage, right? Was being more aggressive because the gunplay was so loose. I hated the controls for the boat. Like that was god awful. If you could tighten up, because I know that they're meant to be delayed, but it felt like the front of the boat and the back of the boat did not work together the way it's intended to work, because a lot of the time we could not move the boat the way we wanted to move it. And the damage detection on the boat was just awful.
Yeah, the collision for the boat was
put half a second to a second of invulnerability on the boat after it gets hit. That would have fixed that whole section. I guarantee it. That whole section would have been much more enjoyable because I thought it was really cool when we got into it until like a quarter way through the section, and we got turned around that one time and hit the rock like repeatedly and instantly died. I was like, oh. And I sighed. Like that was the worst part of the game for me.
That actually potentially could have been one of the moments, maybe because we just failed it so many times, but that might have been one of the moments where I thought, this could have been maybe a little bit shorter. Or
the boat section I felt like could have been a bit shorter, or I only felt like it could have been shorter because the controls were just a nightmare.
That's what I was going to reference to.
Were a little better. I think the section would have been fine for the length it was, but I seriously think if the controls were just a touch tighter and you just put on half a second to a second of invulnerability on the boat once it gets hit, bam, section fixed, it would have been fantastic.
The delay on swapping sides was what frustrated me the most.
That was pretty frustrating because maybe even a boat section before that boat section.
And that actually kind of transitions to my thoughts on the guns. Is I agree with you that the guns weren't the cleanest in the game, and I think part of that reason is because we don't get any experience with guns until
the very end.
Until we're expected to just use guns for the rest of the game, basically. Yeah. And
I felt like we had the range there, but I mean, there wasn't a lot to do there other than like shoot at bottles.
Right.
So I wasn't overly impressed by that. Like I felt like there could have been, like I had some gunplay with the shotgun. a little bit. Oh, that's something else. The chase scenes. Let us shoot some tires out. That drove me nuts. I could not shoot tires out. Cars would not, like, I wanted to hit vehicles non-lethally, but it like forced me to kill people. Like I needed to shoot the driver or just blow the car up to get them to stop chasing.
Those scenes were like 100% Uncharted feeling for me in every bit of it, because like that's all you could do.
Explosions, the gunplay, the running, all that stuff felt very Uncharted-ish, and I'm okay with that. I'm not super knocking them on that, but I do feel like there could have been like that could have been expanded. A lot of the chase scenes I felt like were like they were supposed to be panicky because you're being chased, and that's fine. But there could have been a little bit expanded there, especially with the control scheme, specifically for chase scenes, because I don't feel like that would have negatively impacted the twist. I felt like it could have only improved those sections because the end isn't really a chase scene. I'm also like really confused on that the chase scene where Leo's in the boat. Like, as the guy who's driving the boat, I wish there was like more control to the boat or like more cover. I wish there was more for Leo to do, because I felt like the only thing I could do in the boat was like drive in a line while you were reloading and then try to weave a little bit away from your spotlight. But however, that scene was great for teaching me to screen peek the crap out of you.
I'll just talk about I was gonna say the chase scenes. Well, first I'll talk about the boat, and just remind me about the chase scenes if I don't remember.
Will do.
The boat part, I had to swap between two sides in order to shoot you, and I think what the game just needed to convey to you was to swerve to one side, the side that I can't shoot on, basically. But at the same time,
I don't. They could have done that with like some terrain early on,
right?
Or like if they could have showed me on my screen where your spotlight was. Like if on my screen I could see a spotlight, that would have been like just little things like the terrain could have been able to push me towards the side for the early parts so that I could see you on your screen, like go back and forth, while I'm doing that. That way I could understand that a little clearer. But I felt like you swapping wasn't that much time and I didn't gain that much off of it. Your reload is what I actually gained quite a bit of time off of, because that reload was like 2-3 seconds.
Well, I only had to swap like I think twice. Which is probably why
there wasn't reason for me to move the boat around a lot of the time because there was no terrain.
Right.
Like I wish there was something for me to like dive between and like try to maneuver the boat around. That way there could have been like options or paths for me to take an open path. That way it's easier for me to drive, or for me to purposely take these cluttered like shipyards or something. That way it would cause you to have like barricades between me and you, but the chance of me screwing up more and like hitting stuff.
Right.
Like that would have like there's just a lack of terrain. I felt like that was a missed opportunity there to make that chase scene like really engaging rather than me just being like almost bored.
Like there's nothing you could do basically.
Yeah, it's just me trying. Oh, well, there's like helicopter.
So, the chase scenes, if I had to say the worst parts of this game, it would be the boat, where we were co-oping the boat, and then it would be the chase scene with the like infinite cop cars almost, when we were inside that truck that we had to repair
when I had the shotgun.
And the motorcycle scenes. I think both of those chase scenes were too long.
Really chaotic and pretty long. Like I was surprised at how long the motorcycle scene went on. especially considering there's nothing for us to do other than run.
Right.
Like, if there had been something other for us to do than run, like not even shoot back, but like ways for us to kill the vehicles in some way, or to reduce the amount of them chasing us, or to mess with them in some way, because I felt like they had very interesting terrain for us to drive on. That wasn't the problem. Like there was like at least, or to just do tricks on the ramps. That would have made that seem better for me. Like something, just to do something other than just hold W, because I felt like that section was hold W.
Right.
And that wasn't super engaging for me.
I 100% agree. I think they could have cut both of those sections in half, and I would have
still had the same effect.
Exactly. Yeah. There was one last thing that I have for this game on my thoughts, and that's, I think playing this game in one sitting was the best idea and the most optimal way to play this game. I
would not want to do this in more than one sitting. Like, this is a one sitting game, and I'm glad it's the length it is. I think it's perfect for that. And I think it would be really easy to lose interest in the game and write it off as something generic when it really is a special gem of a game, because you don't get to that, like, you don't get that build up unless you play it in one sitting.
Absolutely. So that's all I have. Do you have any last things about this game that I guess just really excite you, or something that's just any final thoughts, I guess?
I just had a really fun time playing it with you, Axel. Maybe we'll do something like this again. We'll have to find something else, because this was really fun.
I am kind of floored at how much fun I had. I was my cheeks actually hurt because I was laughing so much.
Lots of laughing and smiling.
And I was smiling like almost the entire time, like basically 6 hours straight.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is something that we could definitely, like, if we could find another co-op game that we could play like on stream like this, I would definitely do it. Or if we could find something of just something that we could play through together, like, this was really enjoyable.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that ends A Way Out, I guess. Dante, I want to thank you for playing the game with me. I know blocking out 6+ hours of your life probably wasn't the most optimal thing, but I'm really happy you did, and I hope you had as much fun as I did, because this was something else for me.
Yeah, this highly enjoyable.
Excellent. Well, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. We're gonna end the stream here. I stream Monday through Friday, 6:00 p.m. PST. So check me out sometime. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Catch you later.
Bada boom.